Albert Einstein once said, "Not everything that can be counted counts, and not everything that counts can be counted." This wisdom aligns beautifully with the book of Numbers, a powerful narrative of faith, obedience, and God's unwavering faithfulness. Written by Moses between 1450 to 1410 BC, Numbers is the fourth book of the Bible, spanning 36 chapters and 1,288 verses. It recounts Israel's 39-year journey from Mount Sinai to the plains of Moab. Through censuses, rebellions, and divine intervention, it reveals profound truths that resonate deeply in our lives today. So what is the context and purpose of the book of Numbers? Numbers captures a pivotal chapter in Israel's history, and that is the transition from slavery in Egypt to the threshold of the Promised Land. While often overlooked for genealogies and censuses, it is rich with spiritual lessons. From the Israelites' rebellion at Kadesh Barnea to Moses' disobedience at Meribah, the narrative highlights the tension between human frailty and divine faithfulness. For us today, this reminds us that life is a journey. Just as the Israelites were navigating the wilderness, we too encounter periods of waiting, transformation, and preparation. The book is aptly named for the two censuses of Israel, emphasizing order, structure, and the significance of each individual in God's plan. The symbolism of Numbers, 12 tribes, 40 years of wandering, and divine perfection, seen in the number 7, underscores God's providence and judgment. Each chapter invites us to reflect on God's intricate design, where no detail is insignificant. So how does God's plan include each of us? Numbers opens with a divine command to conduct a census, not merely as a tally, but as a declaration of purpose. The Israelites are organized around the tabernacle, symbolizing God's centrality in their lives. Each tribe is given a specific role, highlighting that every individual has a place in God's plan. Consider this. Do you ever feel overlooked in the grand scheme of things? Numbers reminds us that we are not forgotten. We are seen, valued, and given unique role in God's kingdom. This is the first lesson of Numbers, and that is that we are all part of a greater purpose. And in a world where we may feel insignificant, Numbers reminds us that God sees us not as numbers, but as individuals with unique roles in His kingdom. So what can the wilderness teach us about faith? The wilderness represents more than a physical location. It is a spiritual crucible where faith is tested and transformed. The Israelites, freshly delivered from Egypt, quickly succumbed to doubt, longing for their past rather than trusting God for their future. They complain about manna, question Moses' leadership, and rebel against God's guidance. Yet, the wilderness is not only a place of testing, but also a place of divine provision. God provides manna from heaven, water from a rock, and unrelenting guidance despite the Israelites' failures. These moments of provision remind us that God is present even when we cannot see the way forward. The second lesson is this: even in our struggles, God remains faithful. No matter how uncertain the path, He sustains us and teaches us to rely on Him. So what does Numbers teach us about leadership? Moses and Aaron's leadership is tested repeatedly in Numbers. From Korah's rebellion to the people's endless complaints, their journey illustrates the weight of responsibility. Moses, despite his intimate relationship with God, falters. Meribah and his disobedience cost him entry into the promised land. Leadership is not just about for pastors or CEOs, it's for parents, guiding children, teachers, shaping minds, or friends encouraging one another. Leadership in God's kingdom is not about authority, but about service. True leaders, like Moses, lead with humility and obedience, even when faced with criticism. This lesson extends to all of us. Leadership is about faithfulness, not status. Whether we hold formal roles or lead by example, we are called to serve with integrity. So why are the consequences of disobedience so significant? One of Numbers' sobering messages is the cost of disobedience. The Israelites' lack of faith at Kadesh Barnea turns an 11-day journey into 40 years of wandering. A generation passes away in the wilderness, unable to enter the promised land due to their rebellion. This lesson is clear. Disobedience has consequences. God's commandments are not arbitrary. They are for our benefit. While He is patient and forgives, He allows us to face the natural outcomes of our choices, to refine and guide us back to His path. How does God's sovereignty shine through? Even in the midst of rebellion and opposition, God's sovereignty prevails. Balaam, a foreign prophet hired to curse Israel, is compelled by God to bless them instead. This event underscores a powerful truth: no weapon formed against God's people will prosper. When you face opposition in life, take heart. God's power is greater than any force working against you. Just as He turned Balaam's curse into a blessing, He can work all things for your good. So what is the significance of Numbers in Scripture? Numbers throughout the Bible carry profound symbolic meaning. In Numbers, they reflect God's order and plan. 12 represents the tribes of Israel, symbolizing completeness. 40 signifies testing and transformation, as seen in the years of wandering. 7, the number of divine perfection, appears in rituals. 10 reflects human responsibility, illustrated in the failures of the 10 spies. 50 denotes consecration and jubilee. These numbers remind us that God is in details. How does the book of Numbers end? As Numbers concludes, the Israelites stand at the edge of the promised land, marking the end of one chapter and the beginning of another. A new generation rises, ready to claim the promises of God. This transition is a reminder that God's promises remain unshaken no matter how far we may wander. His covenant is renewed, offering hope and restoration. So what lessons can we take from the book of Numbers today? The book of Numbers is not just a historical account, but it is a mirror reflecting a spiritual journey. It teaches us: 1, we are part of God's plan. Every individual has a purpose. 2, God is faithful, even in the wilderness of life. 3, leadership is about service. True leaders reflect humility and obedience. 4, disobedience has consequences, yet God's grace is always present. And God's sovereignty prevails. His plans cannot be thwarted. The book of Numbers reminds us that we are part of God's greater story, one of redemption, restoration, and hope. So let us walk with courage, trusting that He who began a good work in us will bring it to completion. As Corrie ten Boom wisely said, never be afraid to trust an unknown future to a known God. May we find strength in His provision, wisdom in His guidance, and hope in His promises.